she's so good at answering and talking about relationship issues. She is an incredible coach. If you want to build a house or something like that, I'm your guy, and I can talk a lot about that. But she's excellent at relationship building. I've learned so much from her.
Well, I've had a lot of bad relationships, and I feel like a lot of that was my fault. And so I've worked really hard on awareness and recognizing why we do the things that we do that aren't healthiest choices for us.
I'm Bob Hallstrom.
Hi, I'm Peggy Caruso,
and this is our advice.
I always say it takes less than a minute to make a relationship work. And a lot of people say, what are you talking about? They're very difficult. One thing that I find, because I coach a lot of people in relationships, is in the beginning, both people tend to do things for one another constantly. Like, it doesn't matter who, but you open the car door and you give gifts, or you give flowers, and you write love notes, you do all these things. And then after a couple of years, one of them fall off. And then they say, well, that's okay because they still do this, 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 and this. And then the next year something else falls off. And pretty soon they're sitting in my office saying that they don't do that anymore. And so we tend to get very comfortable with one another, and we fail to realize that those little tiny things make the biggest difference. So that's why I always say it takes less than a minute, because you can send a text, I could give you hundreds of things that you could do to keep your relationship alive.
And that's very effective too. Peggy's really good at leaving me notes. It was yesterday morning. I walked up to the coffee pot and there was a nice note from her sitting on top the coffee pot that I would see when I made the coffee in the morning. Or sending, as she said, it only takes less than a minute to send somebody a positive, upbeat, loving message. How you feel when you get a message like that, just out of the blue is incredible, and it certainly helps the relationship. Do I do anything that you like?
What does Bob do that you
Yes, what does Bob do?
Bob does a lot of wonderful things for me. He also leaves notes, or he'll send me a wonderful text message. But something that he does that means the world to me, and I'll tell you how I use it to save on negative situations, is all of my life I never had help until Bob. And one of the things that he does that I despise doing, but I've done it myself all my life, is going grocery shopping. I hate it. But he doesn't mind it. He likes to go. And so I am like, are you kidding me? This is awesome. So what I do is I use it for the benefit of, say I'm upset with something he has done, or we're having some sort of, negative dispute. The first thing I do is I close my eyes and take a breath, and I say, I am so grateful he does grocery shopping for me, because it saves me so much time and angst. I just don't like anything about the experience of it. So for me, he gets a pass on a lot of things because it is wonderful that he does that. So that's something that I think you could focus on, as when you get disgruntled about something, is it worth it? What about the bigger things the other person does? It is about notes. The small things are the big things, but there are big things like the grocery shop, and that takes a long time to go and do that. And it's just so wonderful. So I'm sure your significant other that you're in a relationship out there, you can find the positives of what they do and stay focused on that.
And she mentioned too that we like to do a lot of things together, like cooking. Mm-hmm. Okay, she is an excellent cook, but I like to be helpful. So typically I'm the vegetable chopper, but it's a big part of making dinner, doing all the chopping and cutting and preparing, while she's over there putting it all together in this wonderful meal, and helping to set the table and cleaning up and helping with the dishes and drying dishes and put them away. Those little things are part of life that you can't just assume that that's one person's responsibility or another.
And I always did everything by myself, so I welcome it. It's just really nice, and it's something that we do together and we laugh, We really enjoy cooking together.
We do.
So find something that you both love to do together and be helpful to one another. And we both come from divorce, and so we have blended families. That's also very difficult, but also can be very easy. It's challenging when you have stepchildren because in many cases they're truly receptive to it, and you have those instances where they're not. So you have to put a little work in, and I always talk in every subject that I do talk about is about effective communication. And if you are out there and you are getting divorced, the one bit of advice I would give is please, please, please don't do anything to use the children in like playing somebody against the other one or anything like that. Everybody should try to get along. It's unfortunate when people get divorced. It really is. But it doesn't have to be a negative. It doesn't have to be hard for the children. And when I say children, I'm talking about even the young adults that when, like our kids are in their 30s, but it's nice to have the blended family that you can all get along and all start a new family together.
That's important. Peggy wrote a book that is just full of ideas on strengthening your relationships and maintaining your relationships. And it's full of a whole lot of tips and tricks to do that. And I've always had a couple favorites that I learned out of that book. And one of my favorites was it's called Eat the Burnt Toast. And what that means is there's a story about a dad and his child were sitting at the table, and the spouse served them toast, and the toast was burnt. And they ate the toast, and when they were done, the dad said to his spouse, he said, "That was the best toast I've ever had." And when she left the room, the kid said, "But Dad, the toast was burnt. Why did you say it was the best you ever had?" And he said, "It's because she took the time to make it for me, and appreciate the effort that she put into it." And it is things like that make a huge difference, because there's probably most of us and many people that would just say, "God, I can't eat this, that toast is burnt," and shove it away, and immediately you've injected negativity into your relationship. So it just small things like that can make a huge difference.
It is. It's appreciation for one another and appreciation for who the other person is in personality. For example, I am OCD. I am a very structured person with my home, my environment. It's very important to me. So when you first get into a relationship, learning what is important to the other person, he isn't, I'm not saying that he's a slob, but he's nowhere near what I am in the house. And I struggled with it in the beginning, but now I pick and choose my battles. And that's what I always tell everybody, pick and choose your battles. Learn to work on yourself. It's called awareness. Like, be aware of your own bad habits, or just because you have the thought process that everything should be in its place. And if it's that important to you, just do it when they walk away. As long as they're aware, like, it goes back to that effective communication, that you communicate like, I could use some help in this area, so maybe you could help me out. So see, it's about presentation, it's about communication, all of those types of things.
Awareness, you mentioned awareness, and that is so important. I am close to or the world's worst communicator. And as she teaches, that communication comes in many forms. It's not necessarily the spoken word, it's the facial expressions, it's the body language, it's things of that nature that communicate how you feel and so on. And I'm struggling with that. I don't communicate well, but at least I have an awareness that I don't communicate well, and try to keep some of those things in check and work real hard to present a more positive image, if you will, right?
Yeah, that's part of picking and choosing your battles as well. Sometimes I tend to communicate everything, and that's not always a good thing either. Sometimes it's good to say, okay, I just need to walk away from this one. I'm okay to lose this battle. What's most important is that you strengthen your relationship. So sometimes just take ownership, even if you're not the one who did something wrong. It's okay. Just say, it's okay. So try not to make a big deal about everything. Try to save those communication type things for the bigger things that you can sit down. And it's how you communicate. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be negative. You don't have to yell, and you don't have to fight. You can say, like, I just want to talk to you about something that's been bothering me. And it's probably more my issue. So, like I said, take some ownership of what you do that, it like my OCD. Okay, that does bother me. But that's my issue, so I need to continually work on myself or make a joke about it. Like, for example, when we first got together, the little Keurigs, the garbage is right here, and he would set it on the counter, and it would just drive me crazy. So I just made a joke about it. I'd open the garbage, and I go, watch this, boop, and then I'd make a joke of it. And now he doesn't do that because he probably thinks of that silly little sound that I made, that it helps me out. It's just 1 second to throw it in there. So just be aware and be mindful of each other and things like that.
Her method of doing that actually was easy to handle. Okay, I get the message. Okay, and it was done without conflict, and it was done without any bickering or anything like that. So there are different ways that, again, you can communicate, so to speak. I know Peggy has talked about the importance of laughter in her business and her coaching business and so on, but also just in life in general. I have a tendency to be more intense, for lack of a better word, and I think a lot of that is carryover from how I worked. I have a tendency to, whatever I'm doing, whether it's wrapping a gift, making dinner, trimming the shrubs, I get very intensely focused on it, no matter what it is. And that kind of tamps down fun and laughter and so on. So I've been working on that as well, that I need to lose the intensity in everything I do, because I've just been that type of personality that throws that intensity into everything you do, no matter how simple it is, and life doesn't have to be that intense. So.
Well, we both have the personality that we're both very entrepreneurial, and so we would always hit the ground running. And I've realized through my coaching career that isn't healthy. So we try to do things like take a half hour in the morning to have a cup of coffee together. And in that half hour, we say what we're grateful for. And we say 5 things different every day. And we don't use family because everyone's grateful for that. So we try to be very creative with it. And it really does make a difference in your day to turn things more positive. Like, I wake up very happy every day. And I always say, let's just make this a great day. Let's just be positive today. And as you go about your day, you are faced with negativity. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect every day, but you really need to be aware of when you are negative and the impact that it has on those around you.
Awareness is big. Yes.
It is very big. And one thing that I do get a lot in my coaching is what to do when something goes majorly wrong. So we come up with what we call create a box.
The box. This is great.
And I actually give this as a gift for family when they get married, and I'm now doing it for grandkids, but not in the same way you do for an adult. So I can explain that. But so you take a box, and then we fill it with stuffing with some beautiful silk on it, and then, like, for us, we like wine, so we put a bottle of wine in, our favorite wine, and we have 2 wine glasses. And on the day that you get married, you write each other a note, and you don't give it to them. You date it, and you put it in your box, and you save it for a year, and hopefully you make it that year. Because if you make it that year, then you open the wine, you celebrate, you read each other the letter, you put it back in, and you write a new letter and a new bottle of wine for the next year. But the cool thing about it is if you have a major fight within that year and you can't resolve it, open the box, drink the wine, read the letter. It will make a difference. I guarantee it. It'll make a difference on how much you want to work to save that. You can do it with your grandkids, and you can be creative with it and do different things. But today that we're talking about the relationship between significant others. So it's just a cool idea. It's a nice idea to give somebody who's young and just starting out and getting married. And it was really funny. We never had a disagreement. And, we got married, and we've been together for 10 years and married for 5, but we never had a disagreement in those 10 years. And we got married, and it was like a month later we had a disagreement. And I said, don't make me open the box.
That's the threat. Yes, opening the box is a threat. Yeah.
So I hope we gave you a few tips to maybe put a different spin on different things you can do in your relationship. And just remember, it takes less than a minute to make a relationship work.
Yes, don't forget that relationships don't survive without work, okay? And like she says, though, it may only take a minute a day to make that relationship work.